this lesson we're going to be learning Canon and D. And we're going to take this in parts because the tune, it's basically just a 4-bar phrase, and it just keeps building upon that phrase throughout the tune, adding more complexity each time. So we're going to take, in this lesson, we're going to concentrate on 3 sections or 3 passes through of it. And the chords are D, A, B minor, F sharp minor, G, and D. Not terribly difficult chords, but there is some voicings in there that are going to be a little different. But it's all 8th note pattern arpeggiated chords. So the first part, it's going to start on a D. Actually, wait, before we even do that, you need to tune down to drop D tuning because the song's in D. So you need to tune your low E string down a whole step to a D so that when you play a D chord, strum all the strings, you get that sound. So don't forget to do that. Tune your low E string down to a D. The high E string stays the same, stays an E note. So we start with a D major chord and we just arpeggiate up the chord, starting on the open D string with our thumb. And we use thumb, 1st, 2nd, 3rd finger. Then we go to an A major chord. And we do the same thing there, except we're starting on the low, or on the A string. So A string, D string, G string, B string. So far, fairly simple. Then we're going to go to a B minor chord. Pick the same strings you did for the A chord. So B minor, just like that. And then we're going to go to a G. Now the G is going to look different than it normally does because our low E string is tuned down to a D. So it's going to look like this. So just 5th fret on the low E string, and then you pick the D, G, and B strings. So now we have oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a chord. You don't go to the G there. You go to the F sharp minor first. And that, so from the B minor, it's a little bit different voicing because, like the G, we got to use that low E string and it's different, right? So all you're going to do is move your 3rd finger up to the 4th fret of low E string, move your pinky up to the 4th fret of the D string, and bar the 2nd fret of the G and B strings. And then the pick pattern is low E string, D string, G string, B string. So, and you know, the way to switch that is when I hit the lowest note, my fingers aren't quite down yet. So you can give yourself some time to get your fingers down before those notes come. You saw how I did that. Now we go to the G. Then we go to back to a D, but a different D. If you've studied the cage system, it's modeled after a C major chord. So if you moved that up and your 1st finger acted like the nut, it would look like this. So it's a D chord like that. So I'm barring the 2nd fret, E, B, G, and D strings. Actually, you don't even need to bar the D string. Then 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the B string, 3rd finger on the 4th fret of the D string, and pinky on the 5th fret of the A string. And we're going to pick the low E string, which is our D, and then D string, G string, B string. So far we got Then we go back to the G, same one. Except for this time, you're gonna hit that 3rd fret there. So 5th fret, open D, open G, 3rd fret B string, then to an A again. Just like that. Okay, so nice and slow through the first time around the chord progression. Then we move to the second part, which adds a little bit to it now. So the second part is going to sound do you see how we're adding in these? So we're adding a little bit more complexity to it. So let's go over that. So now we're going to start when we hit our D, we're going to hit the low D, the low E string, and the high E string together. We're still forming our D chord shape. I'm hitting that with my 3rd finger and my thumb. Then I hit G string, B string, G string. I mean, basically the same thing on the A, except our lowest note is now on the A string here. Everything else is the same. So we got now we go to our B minor. So now I'm picking A string, B string, and then D, G, D. And then the same thing on the F sharp minor, except for our root notes on the E string, so it's so we got then we get to our G, it's low E string and B string, then D, G, D. Now we go to that weird D chord again. And now here you're going to pick low E string and G string. And the alternating notes are going to be A, D, A. Then you go back to the G. Same thing there. And then our A is the A string and B string together, and then D, G, D string. So nice and slow. Okay, now we're ready for the third pass through the chord progression, add a little more complexity to it. Now, I wouldn't suggest moving on until you get the first two down really well. So once you get that down, solid, even if it's at a slow tempo, that's fine. Just nice and smooth, then we'll move on to the third section. Okay, so the third section. It kind of has this feel. So you're picking more notes. It's not just single notes being played. If you see what I mean. Okay, so on the D chord, we're picking the low E string with the high E string and B string. together, those 3 notes. Okay, now, then we're gonna go open D, and then we're gonna hit the G and B strings together. And then back to the open D. Then we're going to go to the A and do similar thing, but our root note now is on the A string. So we got okay, then on the B, it's going to be, you're going to pick the A string, G string, and B string. And then you're going to do D string, D and G together, and then back to D. So it's same thing on the F. G is low E string, B, or G and B, and then D, G and D, back to D. So far we have okay, now when we go to that weird D chord, this time you're going to pick low E, D and G together, and then A string, D and A together, back to A. Then back to our G, and then the last chord A. This time it's A string, G string, B string, and then D, D and G together, back to D. So, this is the tricky part right here. Okay, so a little tip, when you're picking those, so like say that last A, I pick the low E, the D string, and then with my thumb, but then when I come back and hit these 2 together, I do it with my first and second finger. So I got this kind of alternating thing going on. It seems like we're picking the D and G string a lot together in that sequence, so not here so much, but as you get to the B minor here, it starts. And that's kind of a weird, because it's right in the middle where you could use your thumb, but you could use your index finger, so really whatever's comfortable for you. But that's a little tip that might help. So that's it for this tune for now, and we're going to take this in parts and we're going to build on it. There's a lot more passes that get a lot more complicated than that. But I don't want you to bite off more than you can chew at one time. So practice that nice and slow. Refer to the tab. Make sure you're playing it right, nice and slow. Get it smooth, and then try to speed it up. But that's a start for Canon D.